I never thought I'd be writing a post like this, especially about someone I loved so deeply. My name is Jake, and my life took a sharp turn when I discovered my wife, Sarah, had been cheating on me. We've been married for 6 years, and the last thing I expected was to find myself picking up the pieces of my heart after her betrayal. Initially, everything seemed fine. We were in a good routine, balancing work and life, and I genuinely believed we were on solid ground. Sarah had recently joined a domestic violence support group, which I thought was a great decision. She had been through a lot in her past, and I wanted to be supportive of her healing journey. I even drove her to the sessions at the community center every week. I was proud of her for seeking help and working towards a better future, but I guess that's where my naivety started. Things began to shift about 2 months into her group meetings. I noticed she became more secretive with her phone. Before, she'd leave it lying around, but suddenly it was glued to her side. She'd smile and wave me off whenever I asked what she was texting about, saying it was just group stuff. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was connecting more with the other women in the group. I wanted to trust her and I wanted to believe the best about her. One afternoon, I drove her to one of her sessions and everything seemed normal. I parked the car and waited for her to finish. After an hour, she came out, and I noticed she was acting a little odd, fidgety, and overly cheerful. I joked about how maybe she didn't need my emotional support anymore since she was so upbeat. She laughed it off, but I picked up on something that didn't sit right with me. A few days later, I got a message from a friend, Tom. He mentioned he saw Sarah in the parking lot of the community center, but what sent chills down my spine was what he said next. He noticed her with a man, someone he didn't recognize, and they appeared overly friendly, too friendly for my liking. Almost like they were in their own world. It sounded like something right out of a bad movie, but I couldn't ignore my gut feeling. That evening I confronted Sarah about it. I tried to sound casual, but my heart was racing a mile a minute. "Hey, I heard from Tom that you were hanging out with someone after your group the other day. Is everything okay?" I kept my tone light, but I was ready for whatever she might throw at me. She looked at me, and for a moment her face flashed with panic before she plastered on that fake smile. "Oh, come on, Jake. You know how these groups are. Sometimes we just talk after sessions. It's nothing to worry about." The way she said it felt rehearsed, like she was trying to convince me more than herself. I wanted to believe her, but the seed of doubt was already planted in my mind. As the days went by, that seed kept growing. I started to notice more things. Her patterns changed. She started coming home late from the meetings and would often have work events that kept her out late. I felt the distance between us widening, and it hurt. I tried to communicate how I felt, but it only led to her getting defensive, claiming I was being paranoid. I decided to take matters into my own hands. One evening, I decided to do something that would either confirm my worst fears or give me peace of mind. I drove to the community center, intending to just sit and wait. As I pulled into the parking lot, my palms were sweaty, and my heart raced in my chest. I told myself I was just being ridiculous, but the drive over had already sealed my fate. What I saw that night shattered my world. There they were, Sarah and her support group leader, wrapped around each other in a way that was far too intimate for just friends. I could hardly breathe as the reality of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks. My mind raced with emotions, shock, anger, betrayal, all crashing like waves. I sat there frozen as their laughter rang through the air. I couldn't believe it. All those late nights, all those excuses, and here she was, betraying everything we built together. The moment I finally left that parking lot, I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't let this go unanswered. But what would I say? How would I even begin to unpack this? Pain, the storm brewing inside me, was almost unbearable. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to jump, but was terrified of what lay beneath. When I got home, I stewed in my thoughts, and the more I thought, the more anger bubbled up. I knew I had to confront her, but I also needed to think about how I would do it. My heart raced at the thought of what she would say. The lies, the excuses, it would all flood out, I was sure of it. I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I could talk to her before jumping to any conclusions. Maybe there really was an explanation, but deep down, I knew I was just trying to protect myself from the inevitable truth. The confrontation happened that night, and I can't even begin to describe the turmoil churning inside me. I waited until Sarah came home, my heart pounding like a drum, echoing the thoughts racing through my mind. I tried to prepare myself for what I was about to do, but nothing could truly brace me for the moment she walked through that door. "Hey, babe. How was your day?" she asked, her voice bright and cheerful. It felt like a slap in the face after what I just witnessed. I wanted to yell, to scream, but instead I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I needed to stay composed. "Can we talk?" I said, my voice steady but cold. She looked at me, her smile faltering for just a second before she nodded, sensing the seriousness in my tone. We sat at the kitchen table, and I felt the air grow heavy with unspoken words. I could see her fidgeting, playing with her ring, something she only did when she was nervous. My mind raced as I tried to form the right words, and then I just blurted it out. "I saw you with your support group leader, Jeremy." The reaction was instantaneous. Her face went pale, and for a moment I thought I might actually see the mask slip. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice too high-pitched to be convincing. "You have to be mistaken. I told you we were just talking." "No," I shot back, the anger bubbling to the surface. "You were more than just talking. I saw you, Sarah. The way you were smiling and leaning into him, it was more than just friends. Don't lie to me." She opened her mouth, but words failed her. In that moment, her defenses felt like they were crumbling, and I could sense the whirlwind of emotions churning within her. Finally, she let out a shaky breath. "Okay, fine, we had a moment, but it didn't mean anything, I swear." "Didn't mean anything," I echoed incredulously. "You're cheating on me, Sarah." "How can you say that? You've been lying to me for weeks." My voice rose, and I could feel the heat creeping up my neck, but I didn't care at that point. She crossed her arms defensively, her eyes narrowing. "You don't understand. You never understand. I needed someone to talk to, someone who understood what I went through. You don't act like you care about my past." I stood up, pacing the kitchen, trying to process everything. Was she really rationalizing this? "So you decide to sleep with your group leader to feel understood. How does that even make sense?" There was a long silence, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind, searching for an excuse that would make this whole debacle seem rational. "You don't know how hard it is for me, Jake. You just don't get it. What I don't get is how you could betray me like this. I supported you through everything, and you repay that with infidelity. You couldn't come to me. Wasn't I supposed to be your safe space?" As the words hung in the air, I could feel the sadness creep in alongside the anger. The betrayal cut deeper than I imagined it would, and I could feel the tears prickling at the corners of my eyes, but I wasn't going to let her see me break. "Jake, please, it was a mistake," she pleaded, her voice starting to wobble. "I didn't want to hurt you. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Didn't mean for it to go this far," I repeated, incredulous. "You slept with him, Sarah. You made a choice to go there, to be with him, and now you expect me to just forgive and forget like it never happened." "I did want to lose you," she cried, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "I thought if I had someone to talk to, it would help me, but then things just got out of control." At that moment, I felt a mixture of anger and pity. Here she was, crying, claiming it had been a mistake, but I knew better. My heart wanted to believe her, but my mind was screaming that the trust was shattered beyond repair. "You should have thought about that before you crossed the line." She took a step closer, reaching for me, but I recoiled. "Don't touch me," I said through gritted teeth. I was furious and heartbroken all at once. "You lost that privilege the moment you decided to betray me." The tension hung thick in the air, and I turned away, feeling dizzy. I remembered all the moments we shared, the laughter, the dreams. How had it come to this? "Jake, I'm so sorry. I want to make this right. Please, we can work through this," she pleaded, desperation seeping into her voice. I shook my head, my heart heavy. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again, Sarah. This isn't something that just goes away because you're sorry." "I'll do anything," she exclaimed, her voice cracking. "I love you. I made a mistake, but it doesn't mean I don't love you." I had to process that. The words felt like a dagger twisting deeper into the wound. Could love survive this? Would we be able to pick up the pieces of our shattered marriage? The emotional turmoil whirled inside me, a storm I couldn't navigate. "I need time," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I can't deal with this right now." I walked away, leaving her standing there, her sobs echoing in the kitchen. As I sank into the living room, all I could do was stare blankly at the wall, trying to comprehend the wreckage of my marriage. In the days that followed, I felt a wave of emotions crash over me. Anger, sadness, disbelief. An emotional roller coaster that I couldn't seem to escape from. I had to decide what came next, and the uncertainty loomed over me like a dark cloud. The days that followed the confrontation felt like I was living in a fog. I kept replaying the moments over and over, trying to understand how everything had unraveled so quickly. I went to work, but I couldn't concentrate. Each time I sat at my desk, my mind drifted back to Sarah and her betrayal. The laughter we'd shared, the plans we'd made for the future, all of it felt tainted now. The first couple of nights after the blow-up were the hardest. I found myself lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with a whirlwind of emotions. I was furious with her, but I was equally angry with myself for being so blind. How did I not see the signs? How could I have trusted her so completely? Despite the pain, I knew I had to make a decision. I was torn between staying and fighting for our marriage or walking away to preserve what little dignity I had left. Friends of mine suggested I separate for a while, to give myself some space to think. I considered it, but the thought of leaving the home we built together felt impossible. It was where we had created memories, where we had laughed and cried. After a week of silence, Sarah decided to approach me again, and I was just as apprehensive as I was angry. She came into the living room while I was sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the TV. I could feel her hesitation, but she gathered her strength and sat down across from me. "Jake, can we talk?" she asked softly, her eyes puffy and red from crying. I sighed heavily. "What is there left to say, Sarah? You've made your choices very clear." "No, please," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "I know I messed up. I just want to explain. I didn't think it would go that far. I never meant to hurt you, I promise. Let me guess, it was just a moment of weakness. You were looking for support and it spiraled out of control." I shot back, my voice laced with sarcasm. "You think I haven't heard those excuses before?" She looked down, ashamed, and I felt a flicker of sympathy for her. "I get it. It sounds cliché, but I need you to understand, Jeremy was just someone who listened." I felt understood. I thought it was helping me heal. I held back a bitter laugh. "Healing? Was that what called it? You think jumping into bed with someone else is healing? You betrayed me, Sarah. You broke the trust we had." "I know, I'm so sorry," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "I wish I could take it back. I know I messed up, but I want to fix this. I love you, Jake." Her words felt hollow, and I could feel the anger bubbling to the surface again. "Love? What does that even mean after what you did? You can't just say you love me and expect everything to go back to normal." "But I want to put in the work. I'm willing to go to counseling, anything. Please just don't give up on us." She pleaded, desperation etched on her face. Part of me wanted to believe her, to cling to the hope that we could salvage our relationship. But another part of me screamed that I needed to protect myself. I pulled my knees to my chest, struggling with the emotional turmoil inside me. "I need time," I said again, my voice quieter this time. "I can't just forgive and forget. I don't even know if I want to try." "Please, Jake," she whispered, reaching for my hand. I flinched and pulled away, unable to bear her touch. "I understand if you need space, but I can't lose you. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." As I looked into her eyes, I saw a mix of fear and regret, and it suddenly struck me how fragile our marriage had become. I was the one who had stood by her through her past struggles, and here I was now, navigating the aftermath of her betrayal. Felt surreal, as if I were watching a tragic movie unfold. "I don't know if I can be the person you need me to be right now," I said, my heart heavy. "I need to figure out what I really want." She nodded slowly, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "I understand. Just know I'm here when you're ready to talk." I watched her walk away, the weight of her betrayal still heavy in the air. The silence in our home felt deafening, and I sank back into the couch, overwhelmed by grief and anger. In the following days, I began to take stock of my feelings. I started journaling to process everything, and it helped me get some clarity. I wrote about the good times we had, the love that once felt so strong. I also wrote about my anger and hurt, the betrayal that seemed to overshadow everything else. I knew I had to decide what to do next. Should I give her another chance? Could I trust her again after she had crushed my heart? I reached out to a few close friends, sharing my story with them, and their responses were varied. Some urged me to walk away while I still could, while others felt that love was worth fighting for if I believed it was genuine. One night, I decided to take a walk to clear my mind. I meandered through the neighborhood under the flickering streetlights, thinking about the life we built together. I couldn't shake the memories of our wedding day, the promises we made to each other. It felt like a lifetime ago. Eventually, I found myself standing outside the community center where Sarah had met Jeremy. My stomach churned as I recalled watching them together in that parking lot. I was angry, all over again. But I also felt a sense of determination beginning to rise within me. I was tired of feeling like a victim of her choices. That night, I made a decision. I wouldn't allow myself to be trampled on anymore. I would talk to her again, but this time, it would be different. I needed to set boundaries and make it clear what I was willing to accept moving forward. I wouldn't settle for anything less than loyalty, respect, and love. But I also knew that rebuilding would be a long journey, filled with trust issues and painful memories. I had a long road ahead, and I wasn't sure if we could make it through together. As I returned home, I felt a mixture of fear and resolve. I was ready to fight for my peace, but I wasn't sure if that meant fighting for our marriage or walking away for good. I had to be honest with myself about what I needed and what I wanted. The next conversation with Sarah would be crucial, and I was prepared to face the reality of our situation, whatever that might mean. The next morning, I woke up feeling a strange mix of determination and dread. I knew I had to talk to Sarah again, and I needed to be honest, not just with her but with myself. I had spent too long pretending everything was okay, and it was time to face the truth. I found her in the kitchen, pouring herself a cup of coffee. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words. I cleared my throat, trying to gather my thoughts before I spoke. "Sarah, we need to talk." She stiffened at my tone, and I could see the flicker of anxiety cross her face. "Okay. What's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened, about us." She nodded, her eyes wide with anticipation. "I know I messed up, Jake. I just want to fix things. I love you." I held up my hand, cutting her off before she could spiral into another round of apologies. "I appreciate that you want to fix things, but I need to be clear about where I stand, too. This isn't going to be easy." "Of course I understand," she said earnestly, her gaze unwavering. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes." "Good," I replied, feeling a surge of confidence, "because I've realized that I can't just pretend everything will go back to normal. Our trust is broken. I'm not sure if I can go back to how things were, and I don't want to rush into anything. We need to be honest about our feelings, and I need to be honest about what I expect moving forward." Sarah looked down at her cup, the weight of my words settling in. "What do you want from me?" she asked softly. "I want you to understand the impact of your actions. You cheated on me. You lied and betrayed our relationship. I need you to recognize how deeply that hurt me," I said, my voice steady, though my emotions were bubbling beneath the surface. "I need to see that you're committed to working through this, not just saying the words." "I understand," she replied, her voice trembling. "I can't change what happened, but I want to prove to you that I can be better. I can go to counseling, I can talk to you more about my feelings, anything. I just need you to give me a chance." "Counseling is a great start," I said, nodding thoughtfully. "But it's not just about you. I want to be part of this too. I need to work on my own feelings and understand why I allowed myself to be blind to the signs. I need to know what I want in this marriage, and what I want is someone who is fully committed to me." "I promise I can be that person," she said, her eyes pleading. "I never wanted to hurt you, Jake. I'll show you I can be better." I stared at her, searching for any hint of sincerity. Part of me wanted to believe her, but another part of me screamed that I needed to protect myself. "I need time, Sarah. I can't just jump back into this like nothing happened. I'm still angry and I still hurt. I don't know if we can ever truly recover from this." "I know," she whispered, tears filling her eyes again. "I'm willing to give you whatever time you need. I just don't want to lose you." I could see the fear in her eyes, and for a moment I felt a pang of sympathy, but I couldn't allow myself to get sidetracked by her emotions. "We need to set boundaries. I need to know that you're not going to keep secrets from me." Of course, she agreed, her voice barely above a whisper. I promise I'll be transparent, no more hiding anything. Good, I said, feeling a mix of relief and uncertainty. But I also want to take things slow. I want us to rebuild, but it's going to take time. I need to see genuine effort from you before I can even contemplate moving forward. I'm ready, she replied, a determined glint in her eyes. I'll do whatever it takes to show you I can be the wife you need. After our conversation, things felt different. The air was still charged with tension, but there was a flicker of hope. We agreed to seek counseling, and I started to wonder if it was possible to rebuild our marriage. It wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to give it a shot. The following week, we went to our first counseling session. I was nervous, but I kept reminding myself that this was a step in the right direction. As we sat in the therapist's office, I realized how important it was for both of us to have a safe space to express ourselves. The counselor, a middle-aged woman named Dr. Fields, was welcoming and understanding. She encouraged both of us to share our feelings without judgment, creating an environment that felt safe. I began to talk about my journey, my feelings of betrayal, and how Sarah's actions had shattered my trust. It felt cathartic to finally voice my pain in a constructive way. Sarah shared her perspective, expressing her remorse and the reasons behind her actions. While part of me wanted to roll my eyes at her excuses, I had to admit that it provided some context for the choices she made. Hearing her explain her feelings in a clinical setting forced me to reevaluate my own response. As the weeks went by, we continued attending counseling sessions, and it felt like we were making progress. We started to communicate better, and I could see Sarah genuinely trying to put in the effort. But there were still moments of doubt. Whenever she received a text or a call from someone, my heart would race, and I'd feel the familiar pangs of jealousy creep in. I knew it would take time to heal, but there were days when I felt like I was fighting against an endless tide of emotions. I often found myself questioning if our relationship could truly come back from the brink. One evening, while we were lying in bed, I turned to her, feeling a sudden need to voice my fears. Are you really committed to making this work? Because I can't keep going if you're just going to revert to your old ways. I promise I'm committed, she said, her voice sincere. I don't want to lose you, Jake. I'll do whatever it takes to prove it. I felt a glimmer of hope, but I was still cautious. I knew that rebuilding trust was a gradual process, and while we were taking steps forward, I was still haunted by the memory of her betrayal. I lay in bed that night, wrestling with my thoughts, wondering if we could really overcome this mountain together. In the days that followed, we continued to grow closer, but I could feel the weight of the past lingering over us. I wanted to believe we could make it work, but I also felt the need to protect my heart. Ultimately, I realized that I needed to give myself permission to feel whatever emotions arose: anger, sadness, confusion, or even moments of hope. The journey ahead was going to be long and complex, and I was ready to face it, one step at a time. I felt cautiously optimistic, but I also knew that I had to guard my heart. In the next few weeks, I would have to decide if our love was worth the fight or if it was time to let go. The decision was looming, and I was determined to navigate it with honesty and clarity. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself on a roller coaster of emotions. The counseling sessions became our lifeline, a structured environment where we could explore the wreckage of our marriage and hopefully begin the process of rebuilding. Every week, I was surprised by how many layers we were peeling back. Every session revealed something new about Sarah, about myself, and about our relationship. In one session, Dr. Fields encouraged us to confront our individual fears. It was an uncomfortable but necessary exercise. I remember sitting across from Sarah, both of us fidgeting in our chairs, unsure of how to articulate what lay beneath the surface. I'm terrified that you'll cheat on me again, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't know how to trust you after what you did. Tears welled in her eyes and she nodded. I'm terrified of losing you, Jake. I know I messed up and I don't want to be that person anymore. I'm sorry for the pain I caused and I want to be better. Hearing her vulnerability made me ache for her, but it also reignited the anger I had suppressed for so long. I responded, It's hard for me to reconcile the woman I loved with the woman who made those choices. I don't want to live in fear, but I can't help it. Then let's work on it together, she urged, her voice firm. I want to show you that I'm committed to changing. I'll be open about everything. I'll even share my phone with you if it helps. As the weeks progressed, Sarah kept her word. She became transparent about her communications, and I found myself gradually easing into a state of cautious trust. There were still moments of insecurity, though. I often caught myself imagining the worst whenever she received a text or had to take a call, but I tried to remind myself that she was working hard to change. One evening, as we were cooking dinner together, Sarah surprised me. She turned to me, a sheepish smile on her face. "Hey, I signed us up for a weekend retreat," she said, her excitement infectious. "It's a marriage enrichment program designed to help couples reconnect. I thought it could be beneficial for us." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued but cautious. "Are you sure? After everything, a retreat sounds pretty intense." "I know, but I think it could be good for us," she insisted, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "It's all about strengthening our bond and rebuilding intimacy. We need that, don't you think?" I hesitated but realized that maybe this was another opportunity to forge a new path together. "All right, let's do it," I said, a mix of optimism and apprehension swirling within me. The weekend of the retreat arrived, and as we drove to the location, a serene lodge nestled in the woods, I felt a flicker of hope in my heart. Maybe this was what we needed to rekindle our connection. But as we arrived, the reality of our situation slammed back into my mind like a tidal wave. I was still grappling with my doubts and anxieties. The retreat was filled with various activities aimed at fostering communication, trust, and intimacy. We participated in workshops that challenged us to share our feelings openly, something we had struggled with in the past. During one exercise, we had to write down our fears and then share them with each other. As I spoke about my fear of another betrayal, I could see the pain etched on Sarah's face. "I know I hurt you, and I don't blame you for feeling this way," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I can't undo the past, but I want to show you that I can be trustworthy." Her sincerity struck a chord, and I could feel the walls around my heart beginning to crack. But with every step forward, there were moments of hesitation. Throughout the weekend, I found myself oscillating between hope and doubt, wanting desperately to believe that we could come out stronger but also fearing the possibility of another heartbreak. On the final night of the retreat, we sat around a campfire with a small group of couples, sharing stories of love and resilience. As the flames danced in the darkness, I felt the warmth of the fire, but my heart felt cold. I listened as others shared their struggles and triumphs, and I realized that we weren't alone in this journey. When it was our turn to share, Sarah took a deep breath and spoke first. "Our journey has been rocky. I made a terrible mistake and I hurt the person I love the most, but I'm committed to doing the work to repair that trust. I want to honor our relationship and do better." I felt all eyes on me as I followed her. I never expected to be in this position, and to be honest, I'm still struggling with how to move forward. But I can see that Sarah is trying, and I'm willing to put in the effort too. I want to rebuild what was lost, but it's going to take time and patience. The group nodded in understanding, and I felt a sense of camaraderie with them. It was comforting to know that we weren't alone, that other couples faced their own trials and tribulations. By the time we finished sharing, I felt a flicker of hope emerge from the depths of my uncertainty. Later that evening, Sarah and I sat in silence by the fire, the sounds of the night enveloping us. "I can't believe how far we've come this weekend," she said softly, breaking the silence. "I know it's just the beginning, but it feels like we're finally making progress." "Yeah," I replied, glancing at her, "but we still have a long way to go. I just hope we can keep this momentum." "Me too," she said, reaching for my hand. We sat together, holding hands under the stars, and for a moment I allowed myself to hope again. I still had my doubts, but I could see that Sarah was genuinely committed to making things right. As the night wore on, I reflected on everything we had been through, the pain, the anger, the healing. I realized that while the road ahead was uncertain, I was willing to navigate it together with her. It wouldn't be easy, and there would still be moments of insecurity, but I was beginning to believe that we could rebuild one step at a time. The retreat ended with a sense of unity among the couples, and as we headed back home, I felt a little bit lighter. I knew that the real work awaited us back in our everyday lives, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of optimism. We were in this together, and I was ready to face whatever came next. However, as we drove back, a nagging thought crept into my mind. I still had to confront the ghost of her betrayal, and I needed to find a way to ensure my heart was protected. The journey of healing was still unfolding, and I had to be vigilant about the choices we both made moving forward. Returning home from the retreat felt like stepping back into a familiar, yet altered world. The weight of our past still loomed over us, but there was a newfound resolve to face it together. Sarah and I agreed to incorporate the lessons we had learned into our daily lives, but I knew that words alone wouldn't be enough. We had to put them into action. The first few days back were a whirlwind of emotions. We fell back into our routine, but there was a distinct difference this time, a willingness to be open and vulnerable with each other. We set aside time each week to check in, to talk about our feelings and any lingering insecurities. It was a small step, but it felt monumental in the context of our journey. One evening, while we sat on the couch together, Sarah turned to me. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about what you said at the retreat, about rebuilding trust. I want to give you access to my phone again just to show you that I'm committed to openness." I looked at her, surprised but also relieved. This was the kind of effort I needed to see. "Are you sure? You don't have to if you don't want to," I replied, trying to gauge her sincerity. "I want to," she insisted, her eyes earnest. "I want you to know that I have nothing to hide anymore. I'm done with the secrets." I nodded, appreciating her willingness to be transparent. It was a healing gesture, one that reminded me of the commitment she was making to rebuild our relationship. I took her phone and scrolled through it, seeing nothing suspicious. It felt reassuring to see her efforts manifesting in tangible ways. Weeks turned into months, and while there were moments of tension, our communication improved significantly. We learned to navigate our feelings, taking turns expressing our fears and frustrations. I learned to be more open about my concerns, and Sarah continued to demonstrate her commitment through her actions. One day, out of the blue, I received a message from Tom, the friend who had initially brought Sarah's infidelity to my attention. He reached out to see how I was doing and if everything was okay between Sarah and me. I appreciated the gesture, but I hesitated before responding. I decided to be honest with him. "We're working through some things. It's been tough, but we're committed to rebuilding our relationship." His response was supportive, and I realized how far I had come. The old me would have crumbled under the weight of betrayal, but now I felt more empowered. I was no longer just a victim of circumstance. I was actively participating in the healing process. One night, as we settled into bed, I looked over at Sarah. She was scrolling through her phone, and I suddenly felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. "Hey, can I say something?" "Of course," she replied, looking up at me with curiosity. "I just wanted to say thank you for everything," I said, my heart swelling. "I know it's been a rough road, but I can see how hard you're working to make things right. It means a lot to me." She smiled, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I'm just grateful to have you in my life, Jake. I'll never take that for granted again." We shared a moment of silence, both of us reflecting on the journey that had brought us to this point. It was far from perfect, but it felt like we were finally on the right path. We had made it through the storm, and while there would surely be more challenges ahead, I felt hopeful about our future. In the months that followed, we continued to grow closer. We began to focus on the positive aspects of our relationship, rekindling the intimacy that had been lost. We took weekend trips, tried new activities together, and gradually started to remember what it felt like to be in love. One evening, while we were cooking dinner together again, I caught her watching me with a smile. "What?" I asked playfully. "I just love seeing you happy," she replied, her voice warm. "It makes me feel like we're finally where we're supposed to be." I felt that familiar warmth spread through my chest. "I feel that too. I know we've been through the ringer, but I'm proud of us for fighting to make this work." As we continued cooking, I paused and looked her in the eye. "I want you to know that I'm not just forgiving you. I'm choosing to move forward with you. I'm choosing to trust again." Her eyes widened and she stepped closer, wrapping her arms around me. "I promise I won't let you down," she whispered, holding me tightly. In that moment, I realized that while the scars of our past would always be there, they didn't have to define us. We had the power to reshape our future, and I was ready to embrace it. As we settled into our life together, I found a profound sense of peace. I learned that love isn't just about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's about the small, everyday choices to be present, to communicate, and to support each other through thick and thin. I also learned to embrace the idea that healing is not linear. There would still be difficult days ahead, moments of doubt and insecurity, but now we had the tools to navigate them together. Our relationship was a work in progress, and that was okay. In the end, I reflected on all that I had learned through this experience. I realized that it was possible to find strength in vulnerability, to rebuild trust where it had been broken, and to cultivate a love that could withstand even the toughest storms. I knew that our journey was far from over, but I felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Because in the end, love is not just about what happens in the good times. It's about how you rise and rebuild after the fall. And together, Sarah and I were committed to doing just that.